Welcome to Let the Quran Speak. I'm with Dr. Tareq Al-Suwaidan. We are continuing our discussion. We are talking about leadership. And Dr. Tareq has taught and spoken for many years on the topic of leadership. He has many students, and he has an institute, in fact, where he teaches leadership. So Dr. Tareq, I thought it was only pertinent that we ask you questions about leadership. Dr. Tareq, I want to ask you, what are the challenges and opportunities that come with leadership?
Thank you, Dr. Safiyyah, and it's again my pleasure to be on your program. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed me to work on this very important subject that unfortunately very few Muslims have went into. Alhamdulillah, I've taught 100,000 people, a little more, and I also trained directly 10,000, and I trained also prime ministers, ministers, etc. And I've written 9 books on leadership. So, and I'm
amazing.
After all of these years and all of this work, I'm still trying to understand what leadership is. True, because as Dr. Barbara Kellerman, who is a professor of leadership at Harvard, I've written so many books, excellent books about leadership. And then she wrote a book called The End of Leadership. And in that book, she says, after all of these years and all of this research, we still are trying to figure what leadership is. So let me start with my definition of leadership.
Okay.
By the way, there are more than 200, and it was counted, more than 200 definitions of leadership. So I did not like any of them, so I added my own definition. Leadership is the ability to move people towards goals. The ability to move people towards goals, which include the following. It is an ability. So it's, if somebody reads 100 books on leadership, they will not become leaders if they don't have this ability. And then it is the ability to move people. And moving people would need certain tools. And if the leader does not have these tools, they cannot move people. And again, no matter what we do, we cannot move all people. So some people, some scholars say, you can move only those who follow you, not all people. And then finally, a leader, no matter how good or bad that leader is, they always have goals, whether good goals or bad goals, but they do have goals. Whether it's a goal that will benefit them only and their family or their whole community and people, then it doesn't matter. But they do have goals. So if we have these 4, then we have leadership. If somebody is lacking any of these, they don't have leadership skills. One day I was teaching a seminar and I asked a simple question. I said, who among you consider themselves as leaders? Without being shy, please answer. And most of them raised their hands. Then I asked the following
because everybody
question.
wants to be a leader.
Yeah. So I asked them a simple question. Please take a paper and write down the names of those who follow you, meaning follow you. I'm not talking about somebody that you manage or your kids. I'm talking about if you move anywhere in life, they will go behind you. If you resign from your organization or company, they will resign and follow you. Write them down. And almost none wrote anything down. So then the question comes, you consider yourself a leader and you don't have any followers, then you're not a leader. So again, it's 4 things: ability, followers, methods or tools, and goals. That's what is leadership. Now back to your question, what are the challenges? The first challenge is that most people don't understand leadership. The second challenge is that they don't have a system to discover and grow the future leaders. They don't have a system. And thirdly, they don't have the clear training methodology to grow these leaders. So again, really, we don't have leadership in our Islamic organizations. We have leaders, but no leadership. That is the difference.
So, Dr. Tareq, how do we develop leaders then?
Okay, Dr. Safiyyah, first of all, we have to discover them, those who are ready to be leaders, or we have to change people so that we can make them leaders. Let me give you a statistic. Less than 2% of humans are born with leadership abilities. 96 to 98%, they are neutral, meaning that if they are trained, they can become leaders. If we don't train them, then they will become just employees or normal people. And by the way, there is only 1% who are not able to be trained. They cannot be trained. So the first thing that we need to do is to discover them. And here we need to know what are the signs. And let me give you the signs very quickly. The first sign is the ability to analyze. Leaders need to analyze everything. And we know how to discover this analysis. The second thing is initiatives. Those who give initiatives. Third, those who have great ambitions. Fourth, these people have to have the seriousness of life. They don't waste their life. They use their time. They have hobbies and skills, and they train themselves in different ways. And fifth, they have courage. They have courage. And number 6, by the way, is a very strange sign. It is proven today that orphans, for example, can become better leaders than the rest of humans, because they still have this ability to they still have this environment of love from their mothers, but because they are orphans, they take responsibility very early on. And by the way, this also works for a kid that is born, a kid that is living with his or her mother in a separated family. It's the same idea. So we know how to discover them. And then we talk about how to train them. And I can talk about that if you wish.
So you mentioned all these characteristics, but some people might not have some, right? They might have, let's say, 3 of them. And then they need to develop the other 3, right?
And yes, there are, by the way, there are people that have all the signs. And these are almost, they are ready. But we need still to improve their skills in that case. And improve their behaviors and ethics, which we have a full training for that. Now, those who have 3 or 2 or of these signs, we can instill in them the other characteristics of leadership. We can do that. There are ways to train them and improve them and grow them. So this is what we do, and in our institute, it's explained in my books and in my lectures about leadership. It's a very clear system. 20 years ago, we did not have this system. Alhamdulillah, with time, and by the way, a lot of research in the West that we benefited from in developing this program.
So what sort of skills, Dr. Tareq, are you talking about?
Okay. A leader would need 8 skills, 8 major skills.
Okay.
The first skill is planning. They need to, what is leadership? Moving people towards goals. Now, if they don't know how to set goals, how to move people towards goals, they are not leaders. So the first thing is planning. The second skill is the ability to motivate people. And there are hundreds, by the way, hundreds, I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of ways to motivate people. And if leaders don't know these ways, then they cannot motivate people. Number 3, they have to be role models. And this means that they have the ethical behavior, or we can change them into an ethical behavior. And this ethical behavior is very set, very clear. By the way, sister, we have 70 laws of ethical leaders. And that's how we train them on this issue. Number 4 is the ability to be creative. What do leaders do? They change humanity. They change their organization. They are not satisfied with the status quo. So if they don't know how to manage change or start creative ideas, then they lack leadership. Number 5 is the ability to train. And training is a full system, by the way. I wrote 2 books on that. There's a full system of training. And the first thing that they must have a program to train themselves, and then a program to train their followers. Number 6 is the ability to build relations and to abide by the laws of relations. And most people don't know what are the laws of relations. That's part of the training. Number 7 is decision making. They have to know how to make decisions. Unfortunately, most Muslim leaders and organizations, they have never been trained on this. They think they are trained, but they are never trained. And this, you're talking about what are the challenges. The whole thing is almost unknown to them. For example, when we teach decision making, we go into tools that are very powerful. We talk about Minimax and Maximax and Bayes and Butterfly, and these are systems that you can use to make your decisions. And if a leader of, say, a masjid or a Islamic organization, they don't know these methods, then they just use their common sense, which might be wrong a lot of time. And finally, a good leader knows how to delegate and empower others. That's how, these are the 8 things that leaders need to do.
So Dr. Tareq, let's say somebody wants to be a leader, wants to develop those skills, can see themselves having certain abilities that would make them a good leader, but doesn't have access to your program or your books. So what would you suggest for them in terms of how to develop into a leader?
First of all, my books are not the only books on the subject. There are very good books in Western civilization. Unfortunately, in Arabic there are not many, but in Western civilization, excellent books. Let me point to some resources that are really outstanding. Books written by Barbara Kellerman, Kellerman, are just outstanding books. Of course, the major scholar on leadership in the West is Warren Bennis, Bennis, Warren Bennis.
Okay.
Any of his books are just outstanding. Books written by Causes and Posner and their program training on what they call Leadership Challenge. Just outstanding research. By the way, the research continued for 27 years on leadership. And they have polled more than 1.5 million people on this issue. So they have the best resource on statistics on leadership. So these are some names, and there are many others. My training is, my books are available in Arabic, and my training on leadership have been recorded as e-training, and it's available on our website, Gulf Innovation. But I am planning to do that, inshallah, soon in English too.
Dr. Tareq, what advice would you have for Muslim organizations? Because I see some very common challenges. So for example, one challenge is that there is no strategic planning. So there's often a focus on very short-term goals, like building a mosque. But there's many other initiatives that need to take place, lots of social justice sorts of initiatives within the Muslim community, but nobody's really doing it. And another big challenge in terms of leadership is discipline and poor behavior, Dr. Tareq. So people violate the limits in terms of their dealings with their employees, with women. So I think those, I would think, are 2 really big challenges that Muslim organizations face in the West. What advice do you have for them?
Barakallah feek. The first advice is to learn leadership. You cannot teach leadership or train others on leadership if you don't know it. So the first thing is to learn it. Second thing is learn the whole science called bad leadership. And this is the part of a major part of your question. There is a full study on bad leadership. One excellent resource on this is a book by Barbara Kellerman called Bad Leadership. So I would advise strongly on that. And this brings me to a challenge. Who are bad leaders? Bad leaders are those who have any of these 3 things. Of course, if they have one of them, they are bad leaders. But some have all 3, then they are the worst leaders. Number 1, they have bad goals. If they have bad goals, they are there to benefit themselves and family or relatives, and they don't care about the others, then they are bad leaders. Second thing, and that's what you mentioned, they have bad behavior. They are not disciplined. And here comes the issues of sexual harassment or injustice, etc. So those who have this are bad leaders. But, and this is a huge challenge in Muslim organizations, there are leaders that I have seen, many. I've seen Muslim organizations from Australia to Vancouver. So I've been in touch with so many. And let me tell you the biggest problem that we have in Muslim organizations. Many of our leaders have great goals and they have excellent ethics, but they lack the third thing, and that is being competent about leadership. They are not competent leaders. They are not competent managers. They don't know how to manage. They don't know how to lead. So it is not enough to have good goals and good behavior. That is not enough for leadership. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah, one of the greatest scholars of Islam, was asked once a very unique question. He said, if we have to join an army, and there are two armies, one is led by a very pious person, but that person is weak. The other army is led by a non-pious person who does personally wrong things, but they are excellent leaders. Whom should we follow? And Imam Ahmad, great scholar that's very open-minded, he said the following. He said, those who are pious, their piousness benefits them only, but it does not benefit their followers. While the other one, their mischief hurts them personally with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But their good management and leadership would benefit everyone. Join the army that is led by somebody who's competent, even if they are not good Muslims. Again, there is something better than that. And that is to have good Muslims who are good leaders. And we can,
of course, yes, this is the ideal.
We can do that. We can train them today. And that's something that we have been doing for so many years. And this is a challenge that I would like to add to your question. Please, any Muslim organization have to have the following. They have to choose 3 young men and women who have the potential to be leaders, and spend time and money on them to prepare them to be the leaders of the future. 3. And this number is not out of my brain. It is something that has been studied and proven. 3 are enough. More than that is very expensive. Less than that is not enough. So this is an advice. Just choose 3 and train them well to be leaders. And inshallah, your organization will have the ability to lead the future, inshallah.
Thank you, Dr. Tareq. I'm getting a lot of really great ideas here. And I hope that I can read some of these books that you've suggested. And really, I'd love for one day for you to train me to be a better leader.
It would be my honor and pleasure. Inshallah, one day I will be with you in Canada, and inshallah, I'll have the chance to interact directly with you. And by the way, I have a great, after training so many, I found out the following. The best of my students, the best, are those who came from Western countries. Because, alhamdulillah, they still have their Islam and abide by it, but they have been trained in the advanced methods of the West. And that's what we need. And these students are, again, out of hundreds of 100 and 1,000 and more, these are the best students I have ever seen. So yes, I do have the ambition to be with you, inshallah.
Thank you, and assalamu alaikum.
Barakallah feek. Shukran. Thank you.
On behalf of Let the Quran Speak, I want to say thank you. You've helped us become the most widely watched Muslim TV show in Canada. I want to appeal to you to continue to support us. You can visit our website, QuranSpeaks.com. We also accept e-transfers to iGive at QuranSpeaks.com. And we're now on Patreon, so you can make a monthly contribution. May God bless you and your loved ones today and always.